Hey guys, I'm back, and I wanted to update everyone on my Harry Potter reread. I just finished The Half-Blood Prince, the sixth book in the series. I literally just finished it today. I just finished it, and then my mom and I went to run a quick errand at Walmart, and I got a new planner, which I really like because I love planning things and making lists. I'm such a nerd. But I think I was right in thinking that this book is one of my favorites of the series. I have three favorite books in the whole series. Goblet of Fire, this one, and Prisoner of Azkaban. And each for different reasons. Like, for Prisoner of Azkaban, it's because it introduced my favorite characters, and we get some of Harry's parents' backstory. We learn a little bit about their relationship with Snape, why he hates Harry so much. And one of my favorite scenes is like the scene in the Shrieking Shack when Harry learns the truth. But this, and then Goblet of Fire, I love the whole competition aspect, like the tournament and all that, and I really love the Yule Ball. And that's kind of, and I also feel like the fourth book was kind of a turning point in the series. Like, it's good in the first, it's good in the beginning, but then in that book, you start to realize that things are going to start to change. To quote Hermione from the movie, everything is going to change, isn't it? And yes, it is. That's what happens. And this book is the first book in the, Order of the Phoenix, actually, is the first book where they start to grow up and realize that they're in the adult world and that they're not always going to be safe. And in this book, Harry realizes that he can't hide behind parental figures anymore. He has to grow up and take charge and take all these risks, which seems to happen a lot in YA. Seems like I remember always thinking being 16 was such a big deal back then because 16 was the age in a lot of the YA novels or teen novels where the young teen would have to make this big decision and would have to have this responsibility and the weight of the world on their shoulders. I mean, I think even the Buffy the TV series starts out when Buffy's 16, or she's 15. I don't know. Either 15 or 16 is when the series starts, I think, for her. But anyway, and then this one, I love it because, there's character development, and we learn about Voldemort's past in this book. We learn, what has led to him going after Harry in the first place. We learn about that he's been trying to make himself immortal by preserving his souls in these objects known as Horcruxes, where he puts pieces of his soul in several objects that are very important to him. He basically rips his soul. And I've been kind of using that, I like to think up different stories, ideas. I plan out, not that I'm copying off of this, I'm not, but the idea of your soul coming in pieces, but not in the way that Voldemort does it. Not the whole ripping the soul. And I might not, this little story idea, I might use it for, the original story I'm actually using it, that I'm not ever going to write down, actually, is kind of a fan fiction type story, a really weird fan fiction. And you can tell it's fan fiction. If I ever wrote it down, people would know. This is just something, a little fantasy in my head. So that little idea that I got from this book, I would probably use it for another one of my stories that I will actually write down because I want to become an author someday. And it's just I have to actually write out a story, write out a rough draft of a story first, and I can't focus on that. I get distracted way too easily. But anyway, that's just a little personal tidbit, a little fact about myself. And then you also, the whole dating thing. I mean, it's kind of introduced a little bit in the fourth book, with the Yule Ball and everything. It's the introduction of the fact that they're teenagers and they have hormones and they're going to be interested in the opposite sex. But this one really puts it in there. like Harry discovers that he's into Ginny, Ron's sister, but he's struggling with that because she is Ron's sister, and he doesn't, and Ron is just so overprotective of Ginny and doesn't like her dating and everything. And although Ginny, in the book, Ginny accuses his overprotectiveness, I don't know that. I mean, it could potentially be both, but Ginny says it's only because he's, just jealous that he doesn't have someone to snog, as the Brits put it when making out, or at least in J.K. Rowling's books, but and he does, and I will admit, when he gets a girlfriend in Lavender Brown in the books, and he is kind of distracted where he's not as focused on like Ginny's relationship, her dating and everything. But I don't think it has anything to do with him being. I mean, I could totally be wrong, but I personally don't think. I mean, that it has anything to do. Although it could be part of it, that it's about him not having someone. I mean, he does get jealous really easily. I will say that Ron does get jealous easily. So, I mean, he could potentially be jealous that Ginny has a boyfriend and that he doesn't have a girlfriend. But I think it's more that he's being an overprotective brother, and he doesn't want her dating anybody because he still sees her as his little sister. But and I think it's more about like if he had a girlfriend to snog, it would be more like she would be a distraction, not necessarily that he would be like he's being, all hypocritical or anything. I mean, like I said, maybe it's partly that, or I could totally be wrong. I don't know. I would have to ask J.K. Rowling herself. There's also a lot of great character development, not just Harry learning about Voldemort's past, but also we get a little character development of Draco Malfoy in this book. Harry suspects that he has been given an important task by Voldemort, and that he might be taking his father's place as a Death Eater. And of course, his friends are naturally like, "No, why? You shouldn't be so obsessed with Malfoy, and come on, like Voldemort would never do that. He wouldn't have a 16-year-old boy." And me, the whole time I'm reading this, I'm thinking, "Oh, come on, guys. Do you think Voldemort really cares about that? He doesn't care that Malfoy's 16 years old. He doesn't care about anybody in that way." And I mean, and of course, if you've seen the movies in your book, you know that Harry ends up being right. Spoiler alert. And then let's see what else. And Harry hates and loathes Snape even more. He already hated the guy, but he hates him even more. And I just have such mixed feelings about the character. Now, I'm not as passionate about the character as some people. Like, I don't passionately hate him, and I don't passionately love him. But one second, my dog's asking to come out of my room. Of course. You're always interrupting my videos. Okay, go on. Go on, Sophie, go. Rascal, go. Sorry. As I've said multiple times, my dog likes coming up here because my window is a great view, but I'm also near the kitchen where my mom spends a lot of her time. So if and there's our garage door is right by the entrance to my room, so there's a lot of back and forth. But anyway, but his hatred is even more solidified in this book of Snape. And also, as I was saying, I have said, I don't have passionate feelings about the character, but I do get really pissed off at the character when I'm reading the book with how he treats Harry. Because I have said before, and I'll say it again, I feel like it's unjust, it's unfair. He's so bitter and angry, and has been bullied by Harry's father, so he takes his anger and his bitterness out on Harry, which I think is unfair. And Harry is a teenage boy. Of course he's gonna, he's not gonna be perfect in school. He's gonna rebel sometimes, and he's stubborn, and he has the weight of this responsibility, knowing that he was the one who survived the killing curse. So he feels it upon himself to save the Wizarding World, as Ginny puts it towards the end of the book. Or like as Hermione puts it in the 5th book, when he finds out about, when he has that vision of Sirius, he when he tells him, you have this thing for saving people. And I don't think he does it because he likes to be the hero. I just think he feels the responsibility, feels obligated to protect these people because he survived. So in a way, I feel like it's kind of like survivor's remorse. Because, his parents died for him, and as the years progress, Sirius dies for him, and all these people die for him, and their lives everyone puts their lives, Dumbledore and the Weasleys and Lupin and all these people put their lives on the line for Harry. So I feel like he feels guilty and he feels the weight of the world on his shoulders. I think subconsciously he already knew he was the chosen one. Not out of, ego, but more out of he's the one that survived. He was the boy that lived. Which is funny, I actually watched a video on here on YouTube where, where this guy was sharing these crazy Harry Potter theories, and the first theory he shared that people had was that Harry, once he had possession of the Horcruxes and everything, he had control of them, and he killed Voldemort, and blah blah blah. That means or no, it's about the whole prophecy of neither can live while the other one survives. One has to kill the other. All that prophecy stuff, and he was saying that it's theorized that maybe because Harry finally killed Voldemort, that he can never die himself. Like, Voldemort is the person that has to kill him. So now he's immortal and he can't die. Which is what ironically, is what Voldemort was trying to achieve. So, I personally hope that is not true. That theory is not the case. Because that would kind of suck if Harry was mortal and had to watch everyone he loved and cared about die. I mean, he's already lost several people that he cares about and loves and that he loves and that died. If you've read the series, and it's just, so to me, that wouldn't be, I don't think immortality is all that great. I mean, unless you have, you're surrounded by your family members, like your whole family is immortal, or, your mate, your soulmate is immortal, too. It would kind of suck. And, and it would also suck because there could be people that you care about beyond, your family members, or beyond the person, your soulmate, and you care about them in a different way, and then watching them all die, but while you, and, as long as you're not alone, your family or your soulmate, then it would still kind of suck. So I don't want to live forever. I would not want to live forever. But, what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. This is the problem when I get on tangents. I'll forget what I was going to say. I forget my train of thought. Let's see, what else happens in this book? That I really, I was talking about Snape. And like I said, I have mixed feelings about the character. And I just, he makes me so angry when I'm reading the book. But then after a while, I think about it. It's like, I kind of pity him, too. I feel bad for the guy because he's so bitter and angry. And he can't just let it go. And the only way, and because James is dead, and so is Lily, so he's taking out his anger on the only person he can take it out on, and that's Harry. Harry looks like his father. He has his mother's eyes. So who else is he going to take it out on? So I get that. Believe me, I get it. And he was bullied horribly for no apparent reason by James. I'm not saying what James' treatment with him was okay. I'm not saying that. I just feel, part of me feels that how he takes out all that anger on Harry is totally unfair, but it's the only option he's got. So I understand it, but at the same time, I also don't think it's fair. So I feel very neutral feelings about Snape. I can't entirely love him, and I can't entirely hate him either. I mean, while I'm reading the book, sometimes I can feel like I really hate him, but after I'm done reading, I'm like right now, I'm thinking, I'm thinking about how I kind of pity him too. I feel bad for the character. But of course, as we all know, as us fangirls and fanboys, it's kind of hard to, make those kind of statements because people will get mad at you and get defensive if they're one or the other. You gotta be careful about what you say. I mean, one of my friends is a huge fan of Snape. And sometimes I worry that if I talk to her about this, she will be all like, Harry was so rude and disrespectful and blah blah blah, and how can you, and Snape was bullied, so what do you expect? Kind of, and like part of me would love to say, dude, get over it, grow up. But then I only experienced a little bit of bullying growing up. I did experience some bullying, but not a lot. Not enough for me to, hate any kind of bullying. And this is also a fictional series. This is fiction. So I am not so, it's not real life. And, combined with the fact that I can't completely relate to the character of Snape, so it's easier for me to look at it with a practical mind and a clear head. But anyway, this, I was surprised though that this book is so much shorter than the fifth. We got such a long book in the fifth book, and then the seventh book is really long too. But this book is is super short compared to those two. It's only. So I was kind of surprised, but then maybe there's a reason. Maybe symbolically, it's only 652 pages. And those two books are either the 700s mark or the 800s or 900s mark. I don't know, I have to look, but that wouldn't make the video too long. But, I think maybe because I think it's because of what happens in this book and what this book is about. I think that's why it's not as long as the fifth one or as long as the seventh book. So it's it's not, I try, it's hard for me to sum up what I'm trying to say. It's just, with what happened in those two books compared to what happens in this is the in-between period. This is the calm before the storm. I guess that's the best way I could put it. The calm before the storm. Not that it's really not that calm, because there's a lot of angst in this book, and of course, the Phoenix is a lot worse because of what Harry's going through. Makes it a lot worse. But anyway, and something fell off my desk. I'll have to check that out when I'm done filming. And then the other thing, like I said, I'm a Harry and Ginny fan. So I like that. I really enjoyed that, and how he had the little green monster of jealousy, and the scene when he's taking the luck potion, and he runs while he's going down to Hagrid's. He runs into he bumps into Ginny and Dean, who are arguing, and then he literally bumps into Ginny, and then he makes it seem, and Ginny, because she can't see Harry, she automatically assumes it's Dean. Seems like Ginny's the type, from what I got from that, I think it was more than just, she didn't like Dean always helping her into the, I think Ginny seems to be the type that likes to take charge and doesn't want to be the damsel in distress, and wants to prove that she is very capable of taking care of herself. She doesn't, need someone to help her out and open doors for her, pull on her chair for her, or anything like that. And plus, I think she's still kind of carrying a torch for Harry. That's why sometimes I wonder if maybe the fighting between Dean and Ginny, not that they ever said or implied it, but sometimes I wonder if any of the fighting had anything to do with Harry at all. I mean, she even admits at the end of the book that she still held a torch for Harry. She was just trying to take Hermione's advice and move on and just be herself around him. So it would be a lot easier for him to get to know her, and he wouldn't be as weirded out by her. And he could potentially be interested in her in more than just Ron's little sister. And I think that happens a lot of times in books with that kind of scenario, that kind of romantic plot where the guy or the girl falls in love with the sibling of their best friend. I think that happens like where, at first they're all shy and have this massive crush on them, and then like eventually after some time they grow up and mature, and that person, they see the siblings or the protagonist starts to see that character and that person in a new light as more than just the best friend of their sibling or the sibling of their best friend. Which I really like, although that's kind of interesting because that actually happened to someone I know in real life. In real life, I had a friend of mine had kind of a similar situation, but the problem is she knew her sibling was not the best person to date. They were a bit of a player, and they were a bit of a flirt and all that kind of stuff. So she did not, and she was worried for her friend. So ever since then, I've always thought about that and been like, if I wrote a book about that kind of scenario, how would my friend feel about that? But then again, she probably would be more like, wouldn't care and know that it's just fiction. She wouldn't, feel like, oh, I can relate to this. I mean, maybe she would think about that, but I think at the end of the day, she would know it was just fiction, and maybe she would realize I was inspired by that situation. But, I mean, although the first time I started an idea like that happened years and years ago before I was friends with this person anyway. Okay, anyway, so there's also, like I said, Ron goes out with Lavender Brown, who was super clingy and annoying, and I don't blame Ron for wanting to dump her eventually. And then, of course, everyone knows I am Hermione and Ron all the way, and that their little fighting that is so funny. And it's funny when Lavender is trying to talk to Harry and get Ron to talk to her. And he talks about, she's all like, why is Ron always hanging out with her all the time? And Harry's like, well, they're friends. And Lavender, all like, don't make me laugh. Because they're fighting, they haven't spoken to each other. And I'm thinking, girl, do you realize the reason why they're not speaking to each other is because she has feelings for Ron, and Ron is going out with you, so she's jealous and heartbroken. That's why they're not speaking. She's angry and heartbroken about it, and he's frustrated with her. And I mean, the same thing that happened with her, the whole Victor situation. Now Hermione went out with Victor Crumb, and Ron was all jealous and petty about it. Which, that's one of his more negative traits. He gets jealous way too easily. I mean, he's one of my favorite characters, but I will admit his flaws. I don't look at him with rose-colored glasses at all. Because, trust me, Ron gets jealous way too easily. And I also love the whole Quidditch stuff, and especially because Harry becomes the Quidditch captain. And that's one of the problems I have with the movies, is it took out a lot of stuff like that because it was the most important aspect of the plot, and also the movie is, 2 hours at the most, sometimes 3. So they can't include, stuff, they can't, they have to squeeze it all in. And they can't include everything you would love for them to include. There's a lot of stuff that got left out, that in the movie just got... The storylines got condensed to just the main points. Harry learning about Voldemort's past through all those through going through the Pensieve, the Malfoy stuff and the Snape stuff, and the whole he gets the magic potion textbook with all these little tips and tricks. It really improves his potions really well, and it's funny that it happens. It's a good thing it happened after Snape was given the Defense Against the Dark Arts position. And yes, he finally got the Defense Against the Dark Arts position. And Slughorn got which, if you read the books, I'm sure you can guess why. I mean, he needed Slughorn to be the potions master, because and he needed to get the memory from Slughorn, so he needed to place he needed to place Slughorn in Harry's path. And I guess that's the only position that Slughorn knows, the only subject that he knows. He couldn't, and he knew that Snape wanted to be Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, so Snape got that. So that was this book. In this book, Defense Against the Dark Arts was no longer Harry's best subject, and it was just as bad as last year in his 5th year. So 2 years in a row where Defense Against the Dark Arts kind of sucked for him. Although in the 5th book, he at least was teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts to his peers. But he did really well in potions. And I for one like Slughorn as a character. He's very entertaining, very amusing. I mean, as a person, he's someone that you would roll your eyes at, you know. But you would also be kind of amused by him as a person, I think. You'd be very entertained by him and his ego and how he likes to collect people that have connections and that are very successful. But yeah, so we have that. I mean, but I like his character. I enjoy his character. As far as a well-written character, I like him, and he's just so like that. I always have, when I read books, I always have two minds, especially the ones that I'm really into. You know, I always have two minds. On the one hand, I have the mindset of a fangirl who can get very passionate, and will hate characters, and will love characters, and will get frustrated at certain situations that characters are in, and I will be talking out loud to myself, yelling at the book, at the pages, or occasionally I cry, although I admit I cry more in movies and TV shows than books, because I'm not just reading words on a page, I'm actually seeing it, and seeing the performance of the actor. But I will get really emotional as a fangirl. But then, I also think of it like someone who wants to be an author myself. You know, I mean, I say that I want to be because I have not really, I have published things. Like, I write reviews for a magazine. I was on my high school newspaper staff where I wrote, reviews on there too, just like I'm doing for this magazine. But I also would write sometimes short stories. But then as I read the short stories, I'm like, okay, this is really lame. Why did my teacher publish this? I mean, they all felt very incomplete. Just really bad. And I've even thought about taking those stories and improving them a lot. But I've taken a break from that, which actually now I'm thinking about it, I think I might attempt that again. Because my mom was telling me earlier tonight when we got back from going to Walmart, she's like, don't write any more reviews to, Karen. Because sometimes she runs out of room in her magazine. But anyway, I am getting off track here. So I also think about it as someone who wants to be an author, and I think about it as a writer, and if it's well written or not, and thinking about the characters, and if the characters are well written, and, I think about, and I'm starting to try and get more critical of books, which, by the way, I don't know if I have anything critical to say about this book, like any negatives, which I feel really bad. I feel like I should, but I don't. I just really love this book. And yes, there were things about that bugged me, but that was more not criticism, but more personal dislike of certain characters and their actions. But it wasn't necessarily that it was badly written or it shouldn't have been in there. Let's see, what else? What else can I say? It's a lot easier for me to criticize a movie than a book. That's for sure. A movie or a TV show than a book. So I don't know what else to say. I just really loved and enjoyed this book, and it's one of my favorites out of the series. Like I said, my other two favorites are Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire. There's a lot of great character development in this. Like I said, I'm so glad that Harry and Ginny finally started dating. That's why one of the reasons I admit, for someone who doesn't like to read only romance, I do get excited when there's romance in a fantasy plot. I do like that, especially if it's a couple that I just fell in love with. Like, I can't wait to get to that point. But I also don't want to read a book where it's only about that. I'll make exceptions for classics and stuff and epic sagas like Gone with the Wind, and I just recently brought the Bronze Horseman, which was really cheap, by the way, so even if I don't like it, I still got it for a cheap price. I think like $2 or $3. And I got this one series. The first book. I mean, well, actually, I don't know. It's more like a companion series, I think, or maybe no. I think this one. Okay, well, it's called Roses. I can't pronounce the author's name, but it's an epic saga about a family in Texas. Which, now that I think about that, when I'm reading it, I'm probably gonna be picturing. There's a couple of actors from Texas that I really like. Brent Spiner, Jared Padalecki, and Jensen Ackles. So I could probably, as I'm reading the book, I might use them for the inspiration for what the characters look like. That's what I do. That's why I like the movie versions. For one of the reasons why I still like the movies, even if they miss out on a lot of stuff, like the Harry Potter movies. Which, unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that is in this book that I would love to have been in the movie. That's why I think it would make a better TV show. The casting of the actors is always great. Like, I think they cast a perfect guy to play Slughorn, as I said in a previous video. The only difference is Slughorn, the actor who plays him, isn't as big as Slughorn is described to be, and he also doesn't have the kind of mustache. The walrus mustache that he's supposed to have. He's actually clean shaven, the actor is, but he's got the personality. He has the personality portrayal done really, really well. That's why I'm a little conflicted. And my friend I mentioned earlier that is a huge Snape fan, she was commenting when I posted on Facebook that I was watching the movies and reading the books after I was reading the books. And she was talking about how Snape's casting was perfect, like Alan Rickman is perfect, which I agree. But, I think they could potentially remake it, but years later. Not like now, because it's too soon, but I think they could potentially remake it by turning it into a television series. Or even a miniseries. Well, no, maybe not a miniseries, because there are 7 books. But, a television series. But wait, until we're all really old. Because then people like my friend here won't get as mad if they ever remade it. But it's true, it's hard to picture anyone else playing all these parts. But I think that there's so much that was forced to be left out. That I would love to see it on the screen. Instead of just reading about it in the book. There's so much more Quidditch in the books. And, there's actually, in the 4th book, there's a scene at the Dursleys. In the 4th book where, Fred and George actually leave a tongue toffee out. They pretend to drop it from their pockets, and Dudley gets a hold of one, and it makes his tongue grow enormous. And there's also a scene where, Dumbledore comes to collect Harry, because he actually, in this book, he personally comes to collect Harry, so he can take Harry to meet Slughorn and persuade Slughorn to come to Hogwarts, because Slughorn loves collecting pupils that are very successful and special, so he figures he can manipulate Slughorn, and of course he ends up doing that. Let's see, what else do I like? I am so bad at these, but really this is just me rambling about how much I love these books, how much I love the books I read, or if I thought they were okay books. That's why I should call it, instead of a gush, I just call it rambling about books I'm currently reading. Okay, so, I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say. So, if you guys are one of the many people that's read the series, what are your thoughts on book 6? Do you have criticisms that I didn't notice? Is this one of your favorites of the series, or is it your least favorite of the series? So, that's it. Like I said, that's all I have to say about the book. And if you guys liked what I had to say of my rambling about my thoughts on the book, then give this video a thumbs up that you like it. And I would appreciate it if you haven't already to subscribe to my channel. Alright, thank you. Bye.